Good morning. I'm fortunate today to work in beautiful Florence, and I thought I'd talk to you from here for a little change of pace. Sebastian asks a very interesting question, a very deep question. He says, is there a way to practice problem-solving skills on a day-to-day basis to get better at it? This is a fascinating question because we first need to understand the problem. It's at the heart of lean thinking and lean reasoning. Most of the time, the reasons we become caricatures of our jobs is that we see problems habitually. Usually we recognize always the same problems from our jobs. Then of course we recognize always the same opportunities from our jobs. So we recognize habitual opportunities from our jobs. So the way we see the world is habitual problems and habitual opportunities, which makes us very narrow in our range of problem solving. So the first point here is that it's not about problem solving skills first. It's about problem finding. It's about truly understand the problem, not in the reaction of our memory, not in the way we first think we need to solve it, not in the frame that we accept, but looking at the problem from all different perspectives to find the real problem. What we need to understand is that we've been trained to think in terms of strategy and execution. We think the strategy and then we execute. But of course, lean is about going to the Gemba. Some Gembas are absolutely fabulous. So you go to the Gemba, you don't start from your head, you start from what you see. So the first thing to understand is this thinking of strategy and execution gives us the wrong approach to problem solving. Because what we tend to do is, in your minds, we tend to start by defining the problem. Then we decide on what is the best option, if there's a best solution. Then we drive it through the ranks to make it happen. And then finally, we have to deal with the consequences because unfortunately, life never works out the way we plan. So the 4 Ds are define the problem, decide on a strategy, drive it through, and deal with all the horrible consequences and all the tap dancing and the justification and all of this. This is not lean thinking. This is the kind of problem solving you can do if you plunge into the problem in terms of solving it. But it's not lean thinking because it doesn't start from the Gemba. It doesn't start from the real problem, the real people, the real issue. So we need to think differently about problem solving as a whole, and we need to start with problem finding. So how can we escape the strategy and execution thinking trap and actually think lean, as in lean thinking? Well, the first step is to go to the Gemba and use just-in-time and Jidoka to find problems. Just-in-time, which means reducing the lead time, will reveal problems. Jidoka, stopping at every problem and looking into it with the people right there and then, will let you see the problem for what it is. This is where you practice respect. You listen to everybody's point of view. You listen to what the problem is. And you accept that there are many, many different points of view. So how do people see the problem? So you find the problem. Sometimes you even do Kaizen, not to solve the problem, but just to understand what the problem really is more fundamentally. So the first step is find problems. After finding problems, which is the first step, the second step is facing problems. We need to get everybody to agree on what the problem really is. We need to create a consensus on the problem before we even look for a solution. Now, this is hard because we need to face to the parts of the problems we don't know how to solve. This is a very difficult thing. We need to face it. Right now, we need to face, for instance, climate change and the destruction of wild habitat, the impact of our societies, inequalities, all these issues. But sometimes this is much more technical problem, but something we don't know how to do. So the difficulty of the second step is to get a consensus on the part of the problem we need to solve when we don't have a ready-made solution. So now that we have done the difficult part of facing the issue, the third step is to frame it. Frame it means finding the right words to explain what the issue is to everybody. It's a difficult exercise. For instance, with the current pandemic, we can frame it in terms of protecting the elderlies. or we can frame it in terms of avoiding super spreader events, or we can frame it in terms of slowing the circulation of the virus and flattening the curve. There are many ways to frame it. Now, what is interesting is that in the way you choose to frame it, you will be looking for very different types of solutions. So frame it is a very important moment. This is the moment when you show to people how you understand the problem and to some extent what kind of solution you're looking for. This is an essential part of lean thinking. This is the third step. After finding the problem, you face it, which means getting everybody to agree on what the problem is, and then you frame it so that everybody can join in looking for a solution and understand what the problem is. The first step is forming. Once you frame the issue so that everybody understands what the problem is and the direction of the solution you're looking for, then everybody can contribute. You can form a solution, not from what you had in mind, but from everybody's kaizens, everybody's involvement. So we're looking for insights and initiatives and inventiveness. And one idea usually doesn't work at first, but if somebody else takes it over and builds on it and then builds on it, so finally we find the change that we want to effect, we form a solution together. So this is what lean thinking is and what you can practice. You can practice finding problems through just-in-time and Jidoka and Kaizen. You can practice facing problems, which is facing the difficult part of the problem and getting consensus on the problem before looking for a solution. And then of course you can practice framing. Framing is a skill to frame the problem in the right way. And finally, rather than find a solution yourself and implement it, what you find is you form solutions from everybody's involvement, and so you form a solution together, and implementation is never a problem. Change management doesn't exist, because as people work together and coordinate on building the solution, the change happens by itself. So this will be what you would practice to practice real lean thinking, which is finding, facing, framing, and forming, so that you have ongoing evolution and adaptive solutions that are created together.